There she is. I don't know about that. Actually, contact there. That way seems okay. Alright, now I got to figure out where to put my hoses at. As they want us to mount the hoses into the block and then connect them up there, and then we will curl it, uncurl it, and we'll see where the hoses need to end up being. You can weld this or bolt it to the machine. So this is the 4-port valve that goes on the boom. And it looks like on this one I'm going to use 90s coming off the sides. That probably goes to the coupler. And then I'll use these straight fittings coming up here. These will go back to the tractor. So that gives you the movement. I guess it goes that way probably. You can actually adjust this hose where it needs to be there. I gotta go get the hose. So anyway, these are the hoses. And you can see they got the banjo fittings on the end that goes on the coupler. So this adds about, I think, 320 some pounds to the machine. You know, to be honest, that's one reason I've never really wanted to have a coupler on here. Is I don't like the idea of extra. You come to see me again, did you? She just came over here to tell me I need to go play ball with her. That's all she wants to do, wants to play ball. So what they send is this piece of plate you can actually weld. Actually, that needs to go on the bottom. So you can weld that plate on your boom. And then they got these bolts you put in here. And Roxy just grunted at me. She's like, you need to do something besides this. Comes with a okay, here we go. These are the bolts that I use on the coupler itself. These are a banjo style. And they got a special little seal. Probably should oil those up before I screw them up. So these are flat face O-ring fittings on the hose, the other side of the hose. And then I've got to take out the 2 plugs that are in the cylinder now. So what I'm going to do now, I've got these lines connected to the, I need to straighten this one up, it's a little crooked, and that one might need to move over. But what you have to do is mount this valve block. Interesting. So the book doesn't tell me where to put it. It says you need to find the best location for this. Might be up here, but you want to be sure you got enough length on your hoses to make this work. So I need to probably curl everything all the way in first. Okay, that's all curled all the way out. So you can see there's my hoses are, well, there's two options on using the curl on this. I'm gonna probably be using this one all the time. If you use this one, you got less range of motion, and it's supposed to give you a little more power, but let's see if where I put my mark is a good spot to have this valve. I'm not sure about that. That seems awful bunched up, but I could, by training these hoses and getting them adjusted. They're not tight yet, but that's about where it was showing they needed to be. I thought maybe I could curl these up and put it up a little higher, but I don't think that's a good option either. So I'm probably going to stick with my first spot there. Be a dang shame if it ain't the best spot for it. I wish the book actually had directions on how far, because there is a model number on this, and you'd think there'd be a way you could just say, measure up so many inches from the end of the stick and weld your block on. But I guess what they're looking at is they don't know what all, you could have something goofy on there that's different than stock. So they're probably just covering themselves on that. So I think that's what I'm gonna do. So all I gotta do is weld this little block to the boom. And I think it's about where it needs to be. And if you want a reference point, that's just above your bushing on your stick here. Double check it though before you do your backhoe. So this would probably look nicer on video if this was all clean, everything was shiny and new, but this is how it looks when you build something old, or you know, put together something old. So anyway, after I get that mounted, welded on, then I can kind of adjust my hoses by loosening and tightening. Right now they're kind of, I need to get that one to go to the left a little bit. That one's about right there, but then tighten up the top side. And then what I've got to do, I've got two small hoses that go all the way back to the tractor. And they've got to go with the extend-a-hoe. Now what I'm going to have to do on that is match them up with these hoses here, and then somehow get them back up over the boom, because they're going to have to be able to extend and retract. These hoses here, when this extends, they roll. So if I can get them to stay with those hoses, they should work. Now I don't know, the owner's, or the book that came with this thing, it pretty much just talks about excavators, no extend-a-hoes. But this kit was ordered for a backhoe with extend-a-hoe, and it should work, I hope. I think the worst case would be the hoses are too short, which I could put a coupling in them and make longer hoses down at the tractor. But anyway, that's, we're coming along here, maybe. Got a ways to go. Okay, well, I'm gonna take you over the review of how I did this. I didn't show a lot of this while I was doing it, but I got the quick upper on the backhoe. I've got the valve block mounted. I've got a little grease on everything. I got the hoses where I think they might work. You have to kind of adjust these. You can pivot the banjo fitting at the bottom, and you can also kind of turn this and tighten it up. But that's where I ended up mounting that block. I think that's going to work good. Also put a couple of the hose clamps they supplied on here. Just ran the hoses up, out, and around with the other hoses, which this one's kind of got a kink in it, and I had a hard time trying to get it out. I may have to work on that at another time. But they supplied a lot of these. I need to tighten that one up probably, but we've got a lot of zip ties they supplied with it. And they supplied some more clamps. I've got a couple more I could have used. Just routed the hoses down in here. When they come up through here, got one on this side, one on the other. I need to tidy this up a little bit. Those go to the valve, okay. This is a fitting, I'm not sure I like it. I had to add this T in here. If you can see this T, maybe. And what this is the port for the bucket curl, the crowd, the actual one. And this pressure line goes to this line goes to a pressure sensing valve. So it's basically just an on-off switch saying it's okay to uncouple the bucket because we have pressure. So what they want you to do, it's kind of a safety. They want the bucket to be, you have to have pressure on that side after you push the button on the box. So you push the unlock button on the box, you curl your bucket all the way in, and that way it doesn't fall off your stick. Now, it's possible to run it without that or to disable that, but I'm going to try to run it with it. The only thing it's going to cause, I had this hose that it connects to, I had to run it back a little ways, and it might interfere with these two hoses here. And I mean, it's only about 2 inches difference, but that's the only thing. They actually recommend you put that out here, but I didn't want that fitting out here because this is up and down, and if somebody was to throw a chain through here or something, that little fitting would get broke off, and then you got a problem. So I didn't want to put it here. Also, where I mounted my valve, it wouldn't have reached, the hose wouldn't have reached. Now, that's one thing with this kit is I didn't see any recommendation on where that valve should be mounted on the backhoe. It just shows you how to mount it. Shows you how to hook up the electrics and that kind of stuff. So I'll show you where I put mine here in a minute, but also I don't know why they thought it was a good idea to use fittings with British standard. They call that a British parallel pipe thread, which it has a O-ring type washer that seats under it. But this was supposed to be my pressure port, and what you're supposed to do is tie this into, I've got a test line under my backhoe where you can test your hydraulic pressure with a gauge, and you're supposed to tee into that line, which is a good spot to tee it in. But my backhoe doesn't have British tapered pipe threads, and I can't use this. So that fitting's, supposedly they're going to send me one next day air. I don't know. But it's hard to find any shops local. I could probably go to Oklahoma City and find them, but this is a bad deal for a guy out in Oklahoma. So if this check valve had normal O-ring boss on here, it would be easy to go back to the flat face standard fittings like I have. This fitting here is supposed to be the return. So once again, they made a little T fitting. This is 1/8 inch British PP. But this fitting here actually doesn't fit the line on the backhoe, so they're supposed to send me one of these as well. This is a number 14, I think, a 14, and what I'm needing, no, it's probably a 12. I think what I'm needing is an 1/8, which is a half, number 8 is a 1/2 inch, this is a 5/8. So they're sending me these 2 ports, so I cannot finish this project until those pressure lines are installed. I do have the box or the control panel mounted in the cab, and I'll show you. On the B95, if you pull this little side cover here, you can run the wires through a rubber grommet that's already there for that type of stuff. And I ran, there's 3 wires that goes down to the valve, and then there's a connecting wire comes from this control box over here, and I just basically put it up under this. There's a metal tray here. You can unbolt, put the wires in, and then I ran the power source off of the cigarette lighter that I added on this side of the backhoe. I haven't got all this back together yet, but I just kind of wanted to show you how I did mine. This is something that, you know, that's not really explained in the book. It probably really doesn't matter where you put that control panel as long as you can reach it. They do recommend on the right side, which I had it on the left, and then I decided, well, let's put it on the right. We got enough wire, and I don't think it really matters. Because basically all you do when this is in operation is you hit the power button and it beeps, and then when you hit the unlock, pressure up your crowd, actually this way, it'll unlock. And the valve right now clicks, but I can't do anything without hydraulics on it, so I'm real close to having this thing done. This was about a 1.5-day project, and it's ongoing a little bit. Actually, probably not that bad. It's just, you know, one of the hardest parts was figuring out where to put my valve. Now, they sent these hoses, they're pre-made, and the length was good. I mean, they'll reach all the way to where I put the valve, but they're real close. So if someone else was doing this, you might want to move the valve a little closer to the back of the machine than where I have it put. Also, like I say, if you put that pressure fitting here on your T-fitting here, you're going to have a little more hose. I didn't want to run another hose out here, really. I've already got 2 extras now I didn't used to have. I'll show you where I mounted my valve. So under here, just behind the hydraulic pump is where I put mine. And you can see the pressure switches here. These are the wires that connect up to your control box. This is your main solenoid for the shifting of this valve. And the way this valve works is simple. You got pressure coming in, you got a return port, you got each side of the cylinder out on the coupler. So when this is not energized, you have pressure coming into this, I don't know which one. You have pressure coming straight through to one of these ports when there's no power, and that keeps it locked. So anytime you, also there's a check valve going to be on the supply side. So the check valve, anytime you use the hydraulics, it's going to put pressure to that coupler and tighten it. It's going to keep it tight all the time. So, and then when you switch to unlock, it's going to dump that pressure through the return, and it'll put pressure to the retract side. Now it's spring loaded, so you have to have enough pressure. It doesn't take a lot, but enough to overcome the friction of the jaws and the springs. And then as long as this is energized, you got it in the unlock. So it's really simple. It's on off, basically. On, it's always pressured. Off, it's always pressured to the other side. So if you want it to quit beeping, you just hit the button and turn it off, or you hit the button that says lock, and when you hit the lock button, it turns power off, and this goes spring loaded back to fail safe, I guess. I need to change my filter a little bit behind. Anyway, the return port is going to go here, and pressure port is, I got a little leak on my loader valve. This is the pressure port. This line goes up to a port under the left-hand step where you get in the cab. This is where you test your hydraulic pressure on your machine. This is the main hydraulic pressure. So what I got to do here is T into this line, and also I need a check valve. And then this is the line that's not hooked up yet for supply. And then I've got another line that's not hooked up yet for return. We are real close. I wish they'd have sent the right parts. Beautiful day, huh, doggy? It's a beautiful day in Oklahoma. I did get the Geith coupler installed. I do have it plumbed in finally. I ended up having to get my own fittings because Geith was like, well, you can just source those yourself, right? And I'm like, well, I wish you'd have told me that the first day we talked. But I think I love the coupler. This actually gives a little bit less curl out because of these pin locations here, but it still seems to be plenty. It's not as bad as running in this hole. So if that makes any sense, changing this pin gives you more power but less breakout force. But the way they've set it up, I think, is a really good compromise between. These are a little closer. So actually, you can't catch this pin because it's too close, and I ended up having to move my bushings out to here because I need some new bushings for that. But anyway, we got it. I got it all installed. It works. I'll just kind of go over how it operates. Fire up the B95. Now all I need is a job. Okay, when you start your machine, it comes on, it beeps for a little bit. Pretty straightforward as far as couplers go. I think it's the same as all. So what we do is I'm gonna set you up here. Maybe you can hear me. Maybe you can see what's going on. So what we're going to do, we're going to energize our pilots, which I've always had to do that. That's just normal. Okay, so on a normal disconnect, we're going to hit the power button. You'll hear it beep. We're going to hit unlock. It beeps fast. We're going to curl the bucket all the way in and pressurize the system. And when we get a solid tone, that means it's unlocking. And if you kind of actuate your extend O or another function, like you could do a stabilizer, it'll speed the process up a little bit. But then you can unhook like a show, and then when you turn it off or you hit lock, of course the coupler goes back out, and if you give it some pressure, it'll go full lock. I mean, the way this system works is anytime you're using hydraulics, it gives it a little bit more, and it's got a check valve on it so it can't back off. So it doesn't have its own separate circuit, but anytime any hydraulics builds pressure, it adds that pressure to that. It's like a one-way valve. It just adds more pressure. So even if your pins are a little bit loose on your bucket, it's kind of nice because it'll actually tighten that stuff up. So we go pressurize, and if you keep it pressurized, it'll unlock a little quicker. Reach out here. I'm not real proficient with grabbing buckets yet, but I'm getting better. Basically pick the bucket up, curl it, make sure that back pin's connected, and then you hit lock. And then it's once it's got the bucket, it's got the bucket. But you can see I still got a lot of curl out, so I can get a nice straight wall on the footing. Maybe I can't do this, I don't know. I've done it before. By golly, I'll do it again. We'll catch that back pin, and then we'll pull it up here and then we'll lock it. And it'll actually raise that bucket up, and it's got it caught now. So now we've got a reverse option that works pretty easy. So for backfilling up around walls, buildings and stuff like that, you can scoop into a dirt pile. Say you're putting it up against a wall somewhere, you can just dump it right out there away from you. So you can put it right up against a fence or a wall, or we're gonna do a little bit of reverse driving this morning. I don't do this much on job sites, but it's fun to practice. Basically, you just put it in reverse and you take off, or forward. I'm gonna go out here and do a little bit of touch up around my fence post that I need to get welded up. My wheat's growing. I need to be getting the old gleaner running. So whenever you need to stop when you're doing this, you gotta either put an outrigger down or a parking brake, or both. Anyway, I'm just gonna do a little cleanup around these posts. Hopefully I won't tear nothing up too bad. I haven't used the reverse bucket that much, and I have cemented these in. I'm just putting the dirt back in around them. And this has been a long time since I dug these fence posts, so you can see that bucket coupler actually grabs that bucket tighter than tight. I mean, that dude is hanging on. From everybody I've talked to, they tell me Geith is the way to go on quick couplers. They've got a pretty good reputation, 60 years in the business. I think they've got a good product. Customer service, I've seen better on that, but we'll get there. We got it done. I mean, the thing that gets me is they didn't really listen to the parts I needed. They didn't reach out to me and say, "Hey, is this what you need?" They just sent parts, and when you do that, you miss an opportunity to take care of a problem. And maybe I was a jerk, but I got a little upset after they sent me parts twice. It took a week and a half. None of them were right, so I ordered my own. Of course, when you order your own stuff, if it's your fault and it ain't right, then it's your fault. So they did say to let them know how much I had to spend on the parts, and they would maybe reimburse me, maybe not. I don't know. You know what? I'm not going to worry about it. I just hope when I need parts for it, it doesn't take that long to get them. It grabs these pins so tight that even with slack in the bushings, I mean, it just holds that bucket. Hydraulic grip completely. I think the lines are going to work. I'm going to probably need to get a spare, maybe two, carry with me in case those get snagged by rebar or something like that. But I like it. This is going to make things so much easier on jobs that require different size buckets, and speed things up a bit. But I really like the way they set this up. When you curl it in, it's tucked up higher off the ground actually than what I thought it would be. I thought it would hang down lower, but the way they've got this set up, it fits this backhoe really good. They did their homework on on that. They definitely know what they're doing on the geometry. You know, I don't know. These parts are replaceable inside. The cylinder's rebuildable. And you know, I worry about dirt getting in here and wearing it out, but I don't know. This is not normal steel. This stuff's really hard. I don't know what they use, but it's hard stuff. Anyway, that's my Geith coupler. Hope you liked the video.